All right, welcome back, everybody, for a new episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those things you really got to hunt, dig, search, just scour the earth for in a lot of cases because they're just really hard to find comic books. This is stuff you're not just going to see up on the wall at any old LCS you walk into. That said, hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. Make sure you're checking out the live shows on Wednesdays and on Sundays. And if you want to see what potential ghosts I want to cover this week, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I will be right back. All right, so what do we want to look at this week? I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole and just started looking at some Spider-Woman books. Why? I don't know, but I did. So that's what we're going to start off with this week. And we're going to look at this Spider-Woman series from 2014, this Dennis Hopeless run. This is the 1 in 25 Sayum cover, which is pretty cool. I like it. I dig it. This was from November 2014, but we're not going to cover this one because this is just the 1 in 25, and I don't want to waste time doing everything multiple times. So there is a 1 in 50 version of this, so we're going to look at that instead. And this is the one that is pretty well known for its cover material, and that is the Menara cover, the Milo Menara cover, which they covered up the rear end with the Spider-Woman trade dress because it was a bit too suggestive. A lot of people list this thing as being recalled, but it wasn't recalled. It just had a lot of controversy around it, and they put that on that, covering it up before it was released. There aren't editions out there that I'm aware of where that's visible, and if there are, those aren't the ones that they are selling. But again, this is the 1 in 50, also November 2014 from this Spider-Woman series. Healthy print run on this of about 93,000 plus. So even this 1 in 50 incentive still has over 1,800 copies. That's a decent amount for a 1 in 50 when you think about it. Even in the census, there are a number of copies in there, 316 to be exact on this one. So 269.8s, 43.96s, and then a few others. So there are a lot of copies of this book out there realistically. But it is a popular one because of, again, the controversy around it. But what's sold? This thing could sell, if not for cheap, it's $350, $400 raw, $600 9.8. Definitely not a cheap book for this 1 in 50, despite the potential copies that are out there. Again, those are estimated numbers, so I don't know for certain what the exact print run of this incentive might be. It's all just estimated based on the information we have available to us. Now, what is available right now? There are copies. There are a few. I think I found 4. $750 9.8, $725 9.8, $1,200 raw, and $1,000 9.8. So the most expensive one is the raw, and the cheapest of the 9.8s is $725 right now. So despite how many copies may be out there, this is still a pricey book. But I'm pretty sure this one's not going to make the cut for Ghost, but it still is pretty hard to find. You're not seeing this, again, at every shop you go into. This is not an easy book to track down. But let's keep looking at this series a little bit more because there are a couple of cool covers in here in addition to this one that, again, controversy aside. Issue 2 is a pretty solid 1 in 25. Kind of like the red here. The red just really pops out at you. And this is a 1 in 25 from December 2014 for issue 2. Print run dropped about in half, 44,000 thereabouts. So, but it's only a 1 in 25 incentive, so the incentive number is still pretty close at about 1,700 copies potentially for this one as well. That said, there are not that many copies in the census. Not as many people submitted this one. While there were 316 copies of the last one, there were only 9 submitted of this issue 2. 9. 7 9.8s and 2 9.6s. And that's it. What's this thing sell for? Well, it can sell pretty cheap. 20 bucks. One sold today as I'm filming this on Memorial Day. Just to kind of wrap this up, I'm even wearing the same shirt that I did for Hidden Ghost because I recorded these back to back. Just to give you a little insight in the how I did this week, I recorded these shows back to back. So this was 20 bucks today on this one. And you know what? I might have bought that if I would have seen it first, but I didn't. I grabbed this after. So I missed out on this one. Uh, that said, what's out there available? The other copies are asking more like 40 to 50. So that 20 looks a lot nicer when by comparison. But what are you going to do? Just be patient. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you can find a cheaper one because there still are a decent number, but only 2 right now available if you are shopping at this moment. We're gonna hop to the next issue 3, which is probably my favorite of these. Despite the the Menara, everybody probably likes that one. I really dig this next one. I don't know, there's something about this. It's got the whole negative space thing going, the red, the glowing yellow. This thing, it jumps out at me. I like it. This is also a 1 in 25. This is January 2015. Print run dipped again, down to 38,000 thereabouts. So this incentive is only about 1,500 copies. Still a solid number for this Spider-Woman series. This was a pretty popular run at the time. Jessica Drew's profile was raised at this point, so her book was selling pretty well. What's in the census for this one? Well, 25, more than issue 2, but still nowhere near that issue 1 Menara. 25, 15 9/8, 8 9/6s, and it looks like a pair of 9/4s. And that's it. What does this thing sell for? Well, I'm a little disappointed. Yesterday, I missed out on this for 15 bucks at auction. I would have been in. I would have been in on that for 15 bucks had I done my research sooner on pricing, but I didn't. I waited till today, and I missed out. But I think that's a pretty good price for this. Even with the $17 shipping from Canada, I still think paying just a little slightly above ratio for this is not out of the realm of what I would personally do because I just like it. Again, I'm not saying as far as value goes or speculation on anything with this. This is just a personal preference. I like this cover and I would like to have one. That said, I don't want to pay $215 for a 9/8. I'd rather just grab a raw for around ratio if I could. But right now I can't because the asking prices is more than double ratio really at 50 to 60 bucks right now. I like it, but I don't want to pay that. I think I can get closer to where I want to be if I'm just patient. So that's what I'm going to do. Going to be patient and see if one pops up more in the range that I want to pay for this and don't have to overpay because I get it. You can if impulse gets you. Don't let FOMO overtake you, but you do what you want with your money. Me, I'm going to sit and wait for a copy that is a little more palatable. Then we're just going to jump to issue 5 to wrap up this run for 2014. This is the 1 in 25. I'm just going to show you this one because there is a 1 in 25 for this. This was from March of 2015. Pretty cool cover. I kind of like it. Looks like she's wearing these weird Becky Lynch glasses these days. Have you been watching? Becky Lynch has been wearing some really weird glasses when she comes out to ringside these days, and that's what these kind of remind me of. Anyway, but we're not going to do the 1 in 25 because, like issue 1, there is a 1 in 50. So with the higher incentive ratio, we're going to look at the 1 in 50 for this issue, which is pretty cool. I like it. It's got like a throwback kind of vibe to it. Looks like an old detective issue with the spotlight and the guns just pointed there. Kind of like it. Kind of dig it. New costume, new look for her. That's why this issue got the higher incentive tacked onto it because they gave the new costume look. And when they do that, they generally up the print runs and up the orders, and then there's more copies out there. So this 1 in 50 has plenty out there. Print run did still linger. I mean, I think it ticked up from where it was because it was down in the 30s, but back up to about 40,000 in March of 2015. So this 1 in 50 now is only going to be about 800 copies. So this is more around the range of what we usually look at when we do chasing ghosts. We're looking at more like under 1,000 or around 1,000 when we're talking about some of these incentives. So this one's hitting more of that mark. Now, in the CGC census, there are still a healthy 37, all things considered. When you look at the last couple issues we looked at, they were nowhere close to that with 9 and, 25, I guess you could say it's close. But 27 9/8s, 5 9/6s, and a few others to round out that 37 for this particular issue. No copies have sold within the last 3 months, at least on eBay, that I could track down. So Don't know what the market would be as far as what people are actually paying, but the asking prices are not bad. I mean, 28 bucks ain't bad. I considering it. Free shipping, not too bad. Half ratio, I'm considering. I mean, granted, a 9.8 is only 175 bucks. Or I'm sorry, there's another 9.8 down there. Only 113.99. That's also not bad for a 1 in 50, if you were so inclined. And there are more copies available than this. This is just a small sampling. So even though it's down to 800, there are a lot more available for this particular book than some of the others. But it is what it is. You make the call of what you want to do. Like I said, knee half ratio. I'm thinking about it as far as price goes. But who knows? If you want to have it, you go beat me to it. Because I might hem and haw for a couple of days. That said, let's move on to our next book. We're gonna kind of it's not really connected to Spider-Woman, but we do get a Spider-Girl, Spider-Woman of a sort here in this Ultimate Universe. Survive. This one shot. This was kind of wrapping up near that end. This was 2014, I believe. This is a 1 in 25 from March 2014. This is kind of wrapping up the Ultimate Universe with Galactus and Ultimate Fallout. You got Miles here on the cover. So you got early Miles appearance. Pretty interesting book. This again with this weird one shot. But that said, print run was not too bad. I mean, only 28,000 thereabouts. So this 1 in 25 is going to have about 1,100 copies all told, if we do our estimate numbers properly. In the census for this one, there are only about 6. Only 6. So 498s looks like a 9.4, and then 6.5 for some reason. A random 6.5. I don't know. But it is what it is. Sales on this thing are not too bad. 30 bucks May 7th, about 50 bucks on May 6th, accepted best offer on a $60 ask, and once over 20 bucks at the end of April. And then there's a few more if we want to keep going back further into its history. But those are the three most recent sales. So this copy is moved and moved over the last few weeks. And copies available. There's a few. There's a couple out there. 3 to be exact. 70, 75, and 85. So 70 to 85 bucks for this 1 in 25. Interesting. I'm not in at that price. That's a little bit more than I want to go. That's triple ratio. But hey, you make the call yourself. I do like the Marvel border thing that they got kind of going there. And it is Ultimate Universe near the end. Not a lot. It's not an easy book to find, but there are a few out there if you just want to pay the price. So we'll leave that one there. Now, we're going to go on to this next little jaunt into the Ultimate Comics universe, kind of based on some little chat I was having on Instagram with, I don't know, I'm going to butcher his name, Danime Etc. I don't know the anime stuff all that well, but you can see him over at Team Nerd Herd doing the when I did the trivia. I know he was one of the mods that got to run that particular show, and I think they might be doing it again sometime soon. I said I would do it again, so go check out Team Nerd Herd if you haven't. Make sure you go sub their newer channel. They had to restart the channel, so go check them out and sub down below. They do a lot of fun stuff over there as well. A lot of good content, not just even comics. Like I said, they do anime stuff, some pop culture stuff. It's stuff that I also like. So definitely go give them a look-see. Go give them a sub. Give them some support and check them out. That said, we were talking in our little side chat about some Ultimate Comics variants, and I was like, you know what? I haven't thought about these in a while, and here are a couple I'm going to start with. I do got a couple more in the pile that he had mentioned that I have saved for another future episode, but for now, we're going to start here with the Divided We Fall variants. This is Ultimate Comics X-Men number 14. So this is the second volume of the Ultimate X-Men title, I believe, when they rebranded everything Ultimate Comics and then X-Men. Makes it a pain to kind of search for things in things like the CG census because you have to have the exact title, and it could be annoying. But that said, this is a 1 in 30 from July of 2012. Granoff cover. I dig it. I like Granoff. I like the art. It's a Kitty Pryde cover there. Pretty cool. Now, print run on this is only under 30,000 for the regular art title, so the incentive is going to be just under 1,000 for this 1 in 30, which is again an odd incentive. We don't see 1 in 30s all that often. I usually see that more with like Dynamite and things like that, some of the other publishers, but Marvel occasionally does the odd incentive or has over time. And back in 2012, they were doing the oddball number. So we had these 1 in 30s. I say these because we got a couple more coming. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, in the census for this, there's only 7. 398s, 296s, a 94, and it looks like a 90. That's all. That's all we got in the census for this particular book. This book also has not sold recently, which I found surprising. I was trying to see what the market might be on this thing as far as what people are paying, and none have sold recently. I get it. This is not, nobody's thinking about the Ultimate Universe anymore. They just don't really care all that much, but I still think there's some good stories to be seen, could be read out there, and there's some pretty cool covers like these that I think you should be, mindful of in case you go and want to go hunt them down. As far as what's available, you can see, look, there's a cheap copy. I'm really thinking about that $15. $15 ain't bad. Half ratio, even they're accepting best offer. But of course, I'll make an offer and then they'll see my name and then they'll take it down and double the price like they did on that Gotham Academy. I don't know. I'm still annoyed by that one seller who did that to me. That said, $15 for a raw, $70 for another raw, or $200 for 9.6. So that's what we got out there. I also got to double check. Maybe that $15 is so cheap. Maybe there's some damage, and I didn't really look into it all that closely. So that's the other thing. You want to make sure when you see those cheaper prices, you get excited, but then you got to look into it and be like, oh, there's a small bindery tear at the back, or there's a or there's a smudge or a color rub. Sometimes you got to just take a look. Like there was that Nakayama Afra that was up, I think, recently, and I looked at it, and granted, it was very expensive. It was like, they were asking like $800 to starting bid, but there was a really bad color rub on the top of the comic, and I'm like, oh, if that's the case, I'm not paying crazy top of the market for something like that if it's damaged. I don't mind a damaged book, but you best believe I expect to pay a damaged price if I'm buying a damaged book. That all said, let's move on to the next one in this series. I'm going to say series because these kind of go together. Again, Divided We Fall. This is Ultimate Comics, The Ultimates. Like I said, pain in the ass to go and search these things. This is issue 13. Pretty cool cap cover. This one is also 1 in 30. Came out the same month, July 2012. The start of this Divided We Fall crossover event that Ultimate Comics were running at the time. The print run's a little bit higher, 32,000. So the incentive is just over 1,000 on this one. Census on it, there's only 3 9/8, 2 blue labels and 1 yellow label, and that's all we got on this cap book, which also has no recent sales for me to report to you. Like I said, these people aren't buying this stuff right now, but doesn't mean you can't go looking. And what's available on this one? Well, I found a pair. One for 35 thereabouts and one for 65 thereabouts. So not cheap for the 1 in 30. And that 35 or 34, I should say, it's also from the Netherlands. So you got to chip in another $20 shipping. So prices are about equal on these two when you factor everything in. Pretty close. So 60 plus is what you're looking at for this book if you wanted to buy it, which is double ratio. Again, grand off cover. I like it, but I don't want to do that just yet. So we'll look at the next one. And the next one is going to be our buddy Miles. Ultimate Comics, all new Spider-Man. Way too many words in that title, but you got to know them all to search it properly. Issue 13 for this run of all Ultimate Comics, all new Spider-Man. Again, grand off cover. I dig it. I like the way that it makes Miles' costume. I miss this costume, by the way. I miss this costume. Can we lose the weird hoodie turtleneck thing? Because I'm just not into it. Let's bring this back. This is classic. Bring back Miles' classic costume. That said, another 1 in 30. This one actually came out the next month as the series continued, or the crossover event continued. So this is August of 2012. Being a Spider-Man book, he was still the cornerstone of the Ultimate Universe, even though it wasn't Peter Parker any longer. And the print run reflects that. It's about 42,000 for this one. So the incentive is a little bit higher at about 1,400 on this particular one. In the census, you see the numbers are also reflected a little bit higher with 28 total, with 25 9/8, 2 9/6, and a 9/4 for this particular variant. And copies of this one have sold, and sold relatively recently, in the last couple of months. $400 for a 9/8, $90 for a raw, and a best offer on a $190 ask of $118 for a raw. So 90 to 120 raw, $400 9/8. This is a pretty pricey book. And even though this is the more heavily printed or more available copy, one would think this is by far and away the most expensive of this set. And you can see available copies right now, what they're asking for. 9/8's asking $325, $100, $200 raws, and there are a few more. I think there was at least a half a dozen or so total when I was looking. So this is just a little bit of a sampling. And like I said, this is the more desired copy and most expensive copy of this set. And the reason why I keep saying set is because if you didn't pick it up, these covers connect. So these Granoff covers form this nice image all together if you were able to put them together. So this is something I like connecting covers. I'm a sucker for them if I can get them, especially if they look good. And I like this one. So if I could get these, all three of these, I will. I will try, but I don't want to spend an arm and a leg to do it. So you know me. I'm a cheap guy. I'm a cheap hunter. So I'm going to try to find these for cheap and hopefully luck out. And I can be patient. I'm in no rush. This is from 2012. There's no need for me to rush. The Ultimate Universe isn't going to pop anytime soon, as far as I can tell. So I think I got time on these. But doesn't mean you have to wait if you don't want to. You take the information and do with it what you will. Run with it if you want. I don't mind. I don't care. That said, wanted to show you that as these all connected together before we move on to our next bit. And I will say, I do not like the next comic, and it has nothing to do with the controversy around the cover. I have no problem with what they decided to do with John Kent. This doesn't bother me in the slightest. This cover. What bothers me about this cover is that this is an incentive on a later printing. I've said it before. I just do not like incentives on second and third prints. It's just something weird about it. I don't like that. And this, I believe, is a third print incentive book. So that's why I don't like it. Nothing to do with the cover. Cover is completely fine. I actually like the cover. I think it's a pretty good image. I think it's pretty cool. But 1 in 50 on a third print bothers me. And this is from November of 2021. So very, very recent. I remember when this was coming out and people were complaining about it. And again, my problem with it is I don't like incentives on later printings. I just don't. I don't know. Something about it just feels weird to me. It feels even more like a money grab than anything else. It's like, well, how are we going to sell our later printings? Well, why are you making the later printings? If you don't need to, then don't make them. You're like intentionally incentivizing people to buy more copies just to get variants of books nobody asked for or needed. We don't need that many copies of this. That's it. My little mini rant aside. I can't tell you how many copies there are because this is in that weird time of pandemic times where everything's bouncing around different distributors. So I have no solid print run on what the third print might have been, let alone the incentive of a 1 in 50 on that third print. But you can guess just based on what you see out there and in the market. Now, right now, granted, CGC marks it as second printing Virgin Edition, but it's the third print. This is the third printing. So that is incorrect on CGC's part, but they have 5 9/8, and that's all they've got for this particular book in the census. And copies sold, well, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. One of those 9/8 sold for over $1,000, and raw 300, maybe 270. Somebody they accepted a best offer. I forgot to look up the price on that one, but I would probably guess probably around 250. So maybe 250 to $300 raw, $1,000 9/8. Definitely not a cheap book, but it's still an incentive on a later printing. I don't like it. That said, there's only one out there right now. If you want to go buy it, there's only one, and it's a 9/4 from CBCS asking $600. So that's the only game in town if you want to go find one of these. So as much as I don't like incentive variants on later printings, like I said, it's still a cool cover. I wouldn't mind having it if this was done on the first print, but it wasn't. It was done on a third print. So I'm not shelling out these bucks, but maybe somebody else will. Pretty pricey book, however you want to look at it. Moving on, we're going to go to something a little bit weird, a little weirder, a little off the beaten track. I think there's some option news. Maybe there's some, I was reading things. Maybe there's some Disney possibilities. I don't know. But the Stuff of Legend, but this Boogeyman edition. Now, the Stuff of Legend is a book that's normally was like a square sized, like almost like Mouse Guard, like a little square sized book. But there are a couple of versions and editions that are regular, normal comic book size. And this Boogeyman edition is one of those. And this is a limited print run book. It's even on the front. They are hand numbered. I found a blank copy to show you, but in 2009, this particular cover was limited to 100 copies, and they're hand numbered. So if you find them out there, you got the hand numbered on the cover of what edition it is, I guess you want to say. In the census, there are only six total, 3 9/8 and 3 9/6 out of those 100 copies. and one has sold recently. One has sold, which was surprising. $218, 218.50 actually, with 7 bids back in April. One of these sold for, and then that was issue 66 of 100. You can see here. Maybe I'll zoom in for you just to give you a little bit. If I don't know if you can read it very well, but this is issue 66 of 100. So again, hand numbered edition, kind of like the I think the German Turner Supergirls were like that, where they did some of those covers where there was numbered, I think, on the back. But hand numbering could be a tricky thing because I don't know how CGC is handling them these days. Sometimes they might green label you because it's technically somebody drawing and writing on the cover. I don't know, but I think they've loosened their stance on some of that stuff, and maybe they still throw a blue label on a bunch of these. But that all said, what do we got as far as available copies of this? Available copies, there is one. There is one. And this looks like it's copy 41 of 100, and they want $2,500. So not a small ask. And yeah, it looks like it's 41 out of 100 right there. So $2,500 plus shipping. So you still got to pay $12 shipping on that too. So it is what it is. But it's a pretty cool cover. I like it. It's definitely not something I'm probably going to run across in my day to day because there are only 100 of them. So I don't expect to ever come across this one, and nor do I expect to pay $2,500 for this personally. But it is what it is. Do want to point out though that there is a second printing of this. It is a black and white version of this where they limited it to 500. Again, I think hand numbered copies. So there is 2009, I think it was probably the same year. The second print of the Boogeyman edition, black and white cover, was limited to 500. I could find none in the census for this edition, and none have sold recently, despite there being 5 times as many as the other one. None have sold of this particular one, but there are 2 available right now if you wanted to go shopping for this, and they're both asking $100. Looks like the identical listings. Hopefully, I didn't just duplicate a sponsored listing, which I could have, but it looks like $100. $100 is what this will run you. Yeah, take that for what it's worth. I don't know if you're interested in that sort of thing. There you go. That's where it's at. But some of these weird limited kind of books can be tough to find. This, regardless of the number that is out there, they're just not easy to track down. Like, who knows what happens to some of these books over time. And the reason why I bring that up is because our final little chunk of books are going to be some Darkstalkers books. These are going to be the holofoil editions. I specifically picked out the Joe Madureira. I always get Joe Mad's name wrong. I feel like I mumble it and tongue twist it and screw it up. But Joe Mad's covers on these Darkstalkers books are pretty cool. And those are the ones I'm going to look at here. The images aren't going to do it justice. These are all holofoils. So they're going to be shiny, reflective, classic gimmick nonsense, but still pretty cool if you see it in person. This particular one is for issue 1 of, again, the Darkstalkers series. Is from November of 2004. It says it's limited to 5,000. That's a healthy number, 5,000 copies. It's like Dynamic Forces or something like that. I don't know. They print a ton of these things. But despite those high numbers of, say, no, there's 5,000, 10,000 of some of these things, they can sometimes be tough to find and track down. Like that Dynamic Forces Black Panther 1 ain't the easiest book to find, even though there's 5,000 of them. So who knows where they all went or where they all are. But don't let just print run be your only deciding factor when you decide what you want to do with some of these things. Just in practical terms, do you want it, and is it a price that you're willing to pay? That said, moving on to the census for this one, there is 26 total copies, including a 10-0. There's a 10-0 of this holofoil. Again, you go with those gimmick covers. A lot of times you can get super high grades on them because as long as they're not damaged, they should be in great shape. And there's a 9-9 as well. A 10, a 9-9, 15 9/8s, 8 9/6s, and then randomly 190. So somebody creased up there somehow, or probably dinged a corner pretty bad by dropping a book. Just guessing. That said, what's this thing sold for recently? Recent copies have sold for about 30 to 40 bucks thereabouts. I mean, shipping free on that $30 one, and then shipping on that bottom one is another 23 bucks. So that's closer to actually 60 bucks total if it was a US buyer. But 30 to 60, let's just say, for this particular book, despite the 5,000 copies available. That said, there are copies available on this one too. There are there's a stack of them actually, at least a dozen, maybe 10 to 12 that I saw. Just quickly scanning, but the asking prices are still pretty solid. 65, 80, 175 bucks raw. So it's not cheap. And like I said, it's still pretty cool. It's still a pretty cool cover. I like Joe Mad's art. He's one of my favorites. I've liked him since Battle Chasers. Well, actually, before Battle Chasers, I liked it when he actually took over X-Men. I like the change personally. But that said, this is the first issue that he did with a Hall of Foil. Now, there are 6 issues in this entire run, and there are Hall of Foils for all 6, but he only did half of them. So we're only going to do the half that Joe Mad did here today, just to kind of wrap us up. And we're going to jump to issue 3 for the next one that he did. Pretty cool. I can't remember this character's name, this cat type character, but this was June of 2005. This one, however, I don't know if this is another limited to 5,000 or not. There was no stated print run for these Hall of Foil editions on subsequent orders. I was able to find the previews catalog listings, check Midtown. Midtown had it actually priced pretty cheaply. It was like 15 bucks or 14 bucks when it came out. That's what they were asking for. So it's not an incentive, but it is a limited book. I just don't know what it's limited to. So this is going to be one of those unknowns that we're just going to have to play with. In the census, there are 17 copies, 898s, 796s, and a few others. Or 2 others, just not a few, 2 others, which are 294s. And that's it. And no copies have sold recently on this particular one, this Hall of Foil, which is also interesting. Granted, I know it's not a popular book, but no copies have sold, and there is actually only one out there. It's healthy 90 bucks with 11 watchers. So there's other people aware of it. They're looking at it. Look, 11 watchers keeping an eye on this number 3 limited edition Darkstalkers. 90 bucks, and they accept best offers. So maybe you can get it for cheaper. I don't like the 319 shipping because that means they're going to ship it media, and you run that risk it can get damaged. I don't know. I don't trust media mail. You shouldn't be shipping comic books media mail in the first place. You're not saving yourself that much money by doing so, and it's just not. You're not allowed to. You're not supposed to. It's not meant for comic books. But that's it. I still don't like shipping them there because you're figuring you got little delicate comics being shipped with potentially boxes of textbooks, which is what media mail is supposed to kind of be for. That's it. Ship how you want to ship, but I just would prefer to pay extra personally to get it via a safer method. Personally, I would pay a couple of bucks more. $2 is not the end of the world to get my book safely. Anyway, let's move on. This one, only one copy, and he did one more, which was the next issue, issue 4. Another pretty cool character, and again, I just like Joe Mad's art. It's a cool look to it. Another one that I don't know what it's limited to, because like I said, they noted it on the first issue. There was 5,000. They didn't give numbers on any of the others that I could find. This was February 2005, so don't know how many copies there are. Only 7 in the census for this one, with 498s, 296s, and a single 94. A copy sold. A copy did sell. 98 sold in April for 350 bucks. 350. Pretty steep on that. And if you want to go buy one, there is a copy available. And it's only $8 out of the Netherlands. You got to pay shipping. But if you read the actual listing, this is actually damaged in some way. So keep that in mind. So yes, this is a cheap copy. There's one copy out there. It's pretty cheap, but it is a damaged book. So know what you are buying when you are buying it. Don't buy something and then try to return it. Like if they give you pictures and they tell you, you take the time to look at the pictures before buying. And personally, I think if they list there is damage and they list pictures of it and then you still buy it, you took that chance. So you shouldn't be trying to return stuff like that. But anyway, just pay attention to what you're doing. And with that, that's my last book for today. We're going to move on here to check what we've got. And this week, what we've got are a lot of hard to find books. A lot of books that there are multiple copies of them out there. For most of those Spider Women books to those Ultimate Comics ones, even that Boogeyman edition, the black and white, had 2 copies. And then the first Joe Mad one had a handful. So these 10 that we looked at today, I'll just say, are just hard to find. Whereas these next 4, there's only 1 or none. So we will call the 1 in 50 on that third print, that limited to 100 Legend Boogeyman edition, and those 2 unknown print numbers on those Joe Mad Hall of Foil editions. We will call this group, because there's only 1 of each of these, I think, out there. Yeah, I think all these had 1 copy each. There were no nuns this week, but All these had one copy each, so we'll call this week this group of 4 our ghosts. Let me know if you agree, disagree, what you think in the comments section. If you think I'm being too harsh on incentives on later printing, let me know. I don't know. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. Maybe it's just me. That said, thanks for stopping by and checking this out. Hopefully, you're still enjoying this series, despite the fact that we are now 55 episodes in, not counting 2 Star Wars specials, I think. So I did like doing this over a year now, and there's still plenty of books to go over and still plenty of hard to find, tough to find, super tough to find books that I haven't even covered yet. So hopefully you're still interested and hopefully you're still enjoying it. Let me know, like I said, in the comments, make some suggestions. I still, like I said, I put your guys' stuff in a pile and I will still cover it. I still got some DC books from Isaiah Flores from way, way back where he gave me a huge long list. So I still got some more books to cover from Isaiah's list that he gave me. So make those recommendations. I will use them at some point. And like I said, hopefully you're liking it. And I'm still having fun doing this. So I will see you guys soon with some more content. All right, later.